establishing one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. There are no votes taken in executive session. There's no correspondence, public comments on items 6 through 14. Any superintendent's report?
Good evening. As you know, the school committee adopted the district's strategic plan back in November. And part of the district's strategic plan is to progress monitor our implementation of that plan. And so we have periodic biannual reports regarding the implementation of the strategic plan. So I'm going to very quickly go through where we're at in the district against the plan that we put together. I also want to commend and thank the members of the school committee for supporting all of the work that the central office team, the building-based administrators, and the teachers have been working together to actually put this plan in place. So our first goal revolves around curriculum. I don't know what's happening here, David, but it's just flipping the slides? Okay. The first goal has to do with curriculum. And we've been working over the past several years in the district at getting those curriculum documents in place. Online, we have our K-12 math documents. We are currently putting our K-12 science documents online. Social studies is completed. 6-12 English language arts is completed. And we are in the process of doing K-5 ELA. As far as curriculum documents for our unified arts and our other special programs, we're going to start that work this year. We are developing a pre-K curriculum, and teachers were in training last year for that, and now the work David Radcliffe will be leading for preschool will be happening in the fall. We have a curriculum cycle that's currently in place. So that's where we're at with our curriculum goal. Our instruction goal. Teachers will be provided with professional development to implement inquiry-based instruction. So last year, we had a K-5 math consultant on site to provide professional development. We also had K-8 science consultants on site, and we had teachers participating in the JASON project. Those consultants have been providing on-site professional development, so we don't have to pull our teachers out of class. We've completed our formative assessment professional development under Race to the Top. And Lisa, Bruce Butler, Lucille, and Kim Granado right now are being super trained in the Common Core standards. They've been in training all summer, and that work will be completed, and they'll be able to facilitate professional development in our district. As far as extending learning opportunities, as you well know, we've expanded virtual learning options at the high school. We've expanded our middle school band program. We have developed a Marine Academy at both the middle schools and the high school. We have put in advanced placement courses at the high school. The teachers are in preparation this year right now to teach those courses, and I believe I sent the school committee the courses that are going to run next year. We've also implemented remedial reading programs and math programs to improve achievement in both of those areas. As far as teachers delivering instruction along to the Common Core, we have created grade level and content specific meetings. We've held some after school, and we've done some half-day sessions really using our substitutes effectively. We're trying to minimize the amount of time teachers are out of the classroom. Under instruction, increased collaboration time, and those after-school meetings and those quarterly half-days are going to improve time that teachers need to meet and develop lessons. As far as students will improve the area of mathematical practices, we do have new math resources K-5. You know that grades 6 through 8, those math resources are being implemented. And for next next year, and after you vote this evening, we will also have an on-site math consultant, K-8, to provide support to our teachers in the classroom. As far as strategy 6, students will improve their ability to analyze text. We have increased professional development around balanced literacy. We had some Saturday institutes. The Rhode Island Writing Center is here in grades 6 through 8. And there is ongoing professional development at the high school around ELA and the Common Core. As far as assessment, the goal for assessment, we had a successful implementation of the PARC assessment. However, as you well know, that was limited to a certain amount of students. Next year, we have to expand that for all students in grades 3 and above. Lisa and David completed a technology assessment to see how many devices we have in the district, and then do we have the capacity to actually pull off the park on a big scale next spring. David has ordered all of the additional devices that you have approved in the budget, so those are actually on site now. So we will be increasing another 330 devices. As far as strategy 2 under assessment, there are some common assessments in place, 9-12. They are being developed in grades K through 8, and we are participating in a special program from RIDE. We were invited last month, and we will participate in that. As far as using assessment data, we have data and RTI teams established in all our schools, and our administrators and teachers' evaluations are actually aligned to data, and they had to submit that data when I evaluated all the principals, and subsequently all the teachers had to submit that data through the eval system. Moving on to strategy 4, we have completed a draft report card K5 that's aligned to the Common Core standards. We're in the process of rolling that out to the teachers. There's a lot of professional development that has to wrap around that. We're also going to be planning parent sessions because the parents really need to fully understand the changes in the report card. As far as professional development plans, we are putting that together to help the implementation of the new report card. And that new report card's on our new student information system, Skyward. So we're pretty excited about that. As far as a grading policy, Lisa has established a committee. They are actually working on that new policy. That policy will be coming before the school committee, I'm assuming sometime next year, right, Lisa? Okay. Under technology, students will be taught computer literacy skills. This year, it started a little late, I want to say in February. We started implementing the K-8 Learning.com Easy Tech program to teach kids computer literacy skills, and it really did help out when we administered the PARC. Our students, even in 3rd grade, were able to log on and actually start to take that assessment. So we were pretty pleased that that particular program is preparing our students for the PARC assessment. Our librarians have been taking professional development all of last year and into the summer. They're doing a wonderful job. They are transforming the libraries from a simple library to library media centers. Under target strategy 2, as you know, this year we launched 500 new laptop devices into the district. This year we're going to launch another 330. So we'll have increased our devices in the district by 830 devices. And as you know, 2 years ago we didn't even have a computer in all of our classrooms. So this is a big step forward under technology. This year we'll be installing this summer our digital interactive projectors at the middle school level, and in some of our, I would say half of our high school classrooms. Elementary 2 through 5, you know the Feinstein grant purchased those projectors. They're all installed, all the whiteboards are installed, and they're operational. David and his team will be working with the teachers in the classroom to provide the professional development. And then, of course, we have our Discovery Ed program in place. We have teacher leaders who are doing teach the teacher strategies. We have 25 teachers, including the librarians, who are very fluent in that program. So they're out in the classrooms and they're helping teachers implement the Discovery Ed program. We've put the Learning.com marketplace software in place, and then, of course, we have other assessments that we're using online. Moving on to ongoing professional development, Those teacher leaders for Discovery Ed will continue their work to work with the teachers. We're also having teacher trainers around our new student information system. We have ongoing PD to use the software we currently have in place, and also professional development around our digital textbook for science at the middle school. As far as family engagement, we do have a new website. Every school has a new website. The high school is loading all their content now. The high school website is very dense, so there's a lot of information that has to transfer into that site. Joe Goho and his team are working with the web developer, and that should be launching probably next month. So we're really happy about that. We certainly are using a better use of our communication system. I am using the calling system to inform parents of an emergency, of social happenings in the community. I don't want to overuse it, but we also want to use it to inform our parents. And we're trying to pilot a webinar at the beginning of school to kind of greet the parents, have them log on and participate with an interactive webinar. So we're going to try to expand that communication. As far as professional development in the area of working with staff, we have Centerdale, Maryville, and McGuire participating in an MTSS grant, and that will also provide those staff members with strategies to work with students and their families. So we're excited about that. That grant funding came from the Sherlock Center in Rye. We had a very successful Parent Expo. We had about 200 parents attend 22 workshops that we offered. We are meeting next month. Parents requested that the Parent Expo not wait until March. They would like that in October. So we're going to have the Parent Expo in October this year. So we're already starting those plans. And then, of course, each school needs to develop a Title I parent engagement plan. We have a parent engagement policy at the district level. We have an action plan at the district level, but now the individual schools have to do theirs. And then as far as our learning environments, as you well know, we completed an assessment of the school facilities by Toronto Architects, and that stage 1 was submitted to RIDE. Stage 2, and as far as the 5-year capital plan, that is actually being developed now. And then as far as strategy 3, the facilities director has completed an analysis of the town's ability to fund new buildings, and he will also present that funding plan to the school committee and the town council when we're at a point where we need to have a joint meeting. As far as strategies 4, 5, and 6, we're simply just not at that point yet. So we haven't made any progress on those strategies. So that's our progress update of the strategic plan, and your next update will come in January.
Well, I want to thank you very much for a very comprehensive report. I'm excited when I see this. I can't believe I'm delighted to see all the work that's been done. You said this district is stagnant, that's for sure. I think there's more activity in the North Providence district than any place in the state right now. So thank you for all the work, and thank the members of the committees. And I'm also impressed with the parental involvement piece. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda.
Be it resolved at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider a vote to approve the financial report as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Picard, second by Ms. Ionetta. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. So moved. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider a vote to approve the homeschool request as submitted.
So moved.
By Ms. Ionetta, seconded by Mr. O'Meara. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Let the record show that Mr. Picard and Mr. Talby vote in the negative. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider a vote to approve the field trip request as submitted.
Motion by Ms. Ionetta, seconded by Mr. Picard. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. So moved.
I don't believe we have a job description in this this month. Do we have
Yes,
that?
it's the induction program.
Oh, the induction coach. I'm so sorry. So sorry, Bob. Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider a vote to approve the job description as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Calvin, seconded by Mr. Inez and Mr. Angiosi. Discussion, all those in favor? All those ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
The next item is our annual clinical agreement with St. Joseph's. Just for your information, Andy did review that contract, and the agency did make the adjustments to any questions he had. So be it resolved that the recommendation of the superintendent, the nonprofit school committee consider a vote to approve the St. Joseph clinical agreement as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Calvi, seconded by Picard and Diana and Mr. Palmieri. Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those ayes have it, so voted. Next item is school committee report. I think this is school committee report. Next item is request to address the committee. Before we get into that, I'd like to just make a little comment. I know there's been some concern on expenditure process and the process of what we do on expenditures and whatever. So I did contact Mr. McNamee, and Mr. McNamee, before Mr. Calvi and Mr. Palmieri go into their discussion on expenditure, could you just give a little overview on that matter, because there's been some concern.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I think it's better if Mr. Palmieri and I discuss the process first before, we do have that on the agenda.
Yeah, no.
We've never done that before, but somebody had something on the agenda, now I have to speak on it.
No, you surely can speak now, but I called him on that because I heard there were concerns about it, and I had some questions on it myself, so. Excuse me?
Why don't we address it?
Well, we're not going to address it, but I was just going to have him.
We basically are using a policy that was approved by the school committee on 12407 procurement policy. And as I read through this policy pretty much matches the Rhode Island General Laws 45, 55, 1 through 15, which is the state's law on procurement for municipalities. So as we go through this process, there are a number of sections, so that any procurement for goods and services having a value in excess of $5,000 and $10,000 for construction shall be made in accordance with the following policies. And the first one is the competitive bidding process, so that we have to provide competitive bidding. So, for example, we'll have one in front of you tonight on the other petitions that Senator Al gave on in the competitive bidding process for those. High school roof is another example. Busing, so we pretty much comply in terms of not only the state law, but with the compliance with the procurement policy as well. It also goes into in situations where it's competitive bidding, you might look at the bidder, the ability to go in and negotiate that, especially in light of the fact that it may not be a number that we think is competitive for the price of the service. And again, this process is generally generated by myself, with approval by the superintendent. And it goes through other stipulations in terms of public bid opening, with the bid opening can occur, you have to advertise it. The bid opening can be no less than 7 days after it's advertised, but no longer than 21 days. And we generally will put it out there for anywhere from 7 to 10 days on average. So we're pretty quick. So then there's a section 2, which deals with procurement policy that may be waived by the school committee. And this is where they deal with certain exceptions. For example, in this policy it says procurement involving specialized items like books, reading, testing materials, maintenance contracts covering certain specific units or groups or equipment, emergency repairs where health safety of employees in the school site threatened loss of value of property is imminent. That wording, I believe, is very similar to the state law. And then there's some additional ones that don't appear in the state law that are in this policy in terms of purchases of commodities or services which are fixed by public authority. I think we're probably talking about utility costs, whether it's sewer, water, electrical or electric and gas. We do have a separate contract for the power, but not necessarily the delivery of power, because that's the national grid. It also refers to the fact that the Rhode Island Department of Administration Division of Purchases has a master price agreements that we're allowed to use, and it also allows us to use other state, local municipalities to take a benefit process. So if there's something out there that might be in another district that has a better pricing, it's allowing us to use that. Then it excludes certain professional services, attorneys, physicians, dentists. They say if there's a known supplier that supplies the Commonwealth province, it's excluded in the process. Any item that the school committee could not be competitively bid, such as used vehicles, surplus materials, things of that nature. Then there's another section which deals with the small purchases. So these are the purchases that do not exceed an aggregate of 10,000 for construction and 5,000 for other goods and services. And in that particular portion, for goods and services between $500 and $1,000, the finance director or superintendent, the designee shall receive 3 or more quotes. I'll be honest with you, we're probably not complying with that, because for me to go out every time we're spending 500 or 1,000, call up and get 3 quotes on that. But I look at it from this standpoint: when we get into the budget process, we pretty much outline in the budget a lot of those expenditures. So that in that particular case, we're obviously bringing that to the school committee and requesting approval.
John, with all due respect, this, I mean, with all the audience, no one knows what we're talking about. If I can't have the liberty to make a statement relative to one issue that, believe it or not, you haven't even touched on, and this is no disrespect to you, but it's one single issue that's trying to be camouflaged, and I don't appreciate it. So I'd like to take the floor, as I have on the agenda, to discuss it. It's very simple.
It's up to the chair.
John, just wrap up to what his concerns are.
How would you know what my concerns are? I haven't discussed it.
Right.
You're sure?
Possibly.
Okay. First of all, I was going to be very brief on this one. Now I'm going to go to the whole detail. Last week, I had a concern about an expenditure that was made that was explained to the committee as an emergency expenditure. This emergency had to do with not having air conditioning in central office. Now, let me just say this. I'm sympathetic to working conditions and things like that. That's not the issue, because the committee probably would approve it. My problem is how it was done. We were notified at 8:35 at night that the air conditioning went, and it was going to be fixed the following morning, and it was going to cost $5,000. I immediately sent back an email stating that, first of all, that's not considered an emergency. Okay? Our custodians work in sweltering heat, day in and day out, physically working. No one's even worried about if they get a glass of water, let alone air conditioning. Second of all, people in that office were told they could go home early. First of all, we didn't authorize that. The wasn't an emergency situation out there where people had to leave and get home early. In fact, there was one instance where a person's employee was working with another employee that was still there, that at 1 o'clock just stopped her work and had to leave because she was told at 1 o'clock she could leave. So we can go around here all we want. The problem is it was not an emergency. It should not have been done that way. We still don't know how much it cost, who did the job, what work was done, and what line item the money came on. That's all I wanted to know. For future efforts, it should not have been done that way. It's not an emergency. The roof wasn't caving in, it just happened to be warm. I think the school committee needs to make those decisions. What is being spent and how it's being spent. I give the utmost respect to the superintendent and her staff, what they do on an everyday basis. The presentation she just made is a testament to the good work and where this district is going. But it's something like this, and I don't appreciate the runaround to try to cover it up. So, here's the thing, it wasn't an emergency. School committee still doesn't have the information on it. We were told at the very last minute, and I think other committee members would have the same issue with that. I know Mr. Palmieri does, because he put it on the agenda as well. So, I wasn't going to go into that much detail. And in fact, the back room was cool. So, why people couldn't maybe done some of the work back there or gone back there? Instead, everybody had to leave at 1 o'clock. I mean, what are we doing here? There was no fire. It was warm. That's all it was. It was warm. It was uncomfortable a little bit. Make concessions. Turn on a fan. You don't spend $5,000 without the community knowing, and it's obvious. We're the ones that have to answer to the taxpayers. We're the ones responsible. So that's all I have to say now. I just hope that in the future, these things don't happen. And I don't appreciate what was done here tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. McNamee. Yeah, Steve, I just asked.
Go ahead. This way you can just, yeah. I just had it on the agenda with Don. When I saw it, I had the same concerns he did. It's just that I've been sitting here for 7 years, and I just know that when somebody spends money that the committee hasn't approved and it's in excess of $5,000, it comes back on the committee. And I just wanted to make it perfectly clear, just to make sure we were going over the right rules and regulations, and we were following the protocol. I guess the discrepancy here was it an emergency or was it an emergency? I think we have to be a little more discretionary. I agree. I think it was an emergency, but I don't think anything was done in a consciously inappropriate manner. I just think in the future it's really got to be, dealt with that it comes to the committee first, just so that we know.
There was no maliciousness.
Yeah, no, I just so that we know, because like I said, we came to hit before when things have been done that weren't done properly, and it was a who did it and why'd you pick that person, and we're sitting here like, well, we don't know. So I don't want to go through that again, so I just want to make sure that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My concern was I called Mr. McNamee because I had heard that people were concerned about the air conditioner, the price of it, and whatever. Okay? There was no attempt by anybody to cover up anything. I say that everybody acted with a certain degree of professionalism. John, I have the utmost respect for you and our staff and everybody. So could you just give us a little rundown of what procedures were followed on this purchase?
Well, we had issues with that compressor for years. I think 2 or 3 years ago, we actually had $90,000 budget to try to repair that, which I think we could really justify based on our financial situation and spending that kind of money. So we never did spend it. But we put Band-Aids on this thing ever since I've been here, 3 years. So this particular case, granted, was it an emergency? Well, I mean, it got pretty humid in there. And as you know, if you look in that building, there's a lot of ground stains where water gets in there. So you always have a concern that mold will start.
John, can I just intervene for 1 second? The mayor's office in Town Hall went without air conditioning for 3 consecutive summers. So, and my biggest thing here was, it was what?
The window's probably open. It's not going to open.
John, let's, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. It's not an emergency. We still don't know how much it costs. Who did the
I think we're gonna know. Give them a chance to say what's going on.
It's 20 minutes. I still don't have an answer.
Well, that was done by industrial refrigeration, Cranston, for 48 months. They had 2 additional quotes, one from Michael Freda's Plumbing and Meeting for 79, and another one from KDF Heating and Air for 74.
Both were almost 8,000, we got it done for 48.
Excuse me?
Both, 2 quotes were almost 8,000, we got it done for 48.
These guys have worked on this system in the past, and they've been very good in terms of their pricing based on some of the other vendors that we've used on that system in the past.
Thanks, John.
John, as far as you can see, as far as procedurally, were the procedures followed, as far as the procedures?
Well, I think I think we need to certainly comply with the policy. So anything that's over 5,000,
Right.
it has to have. Basically, what the policy is saying is that Director of Finance and Superintendent would be the 3 written quotes, and basically, obviously commit to have those services performed. In the case where it's over that amount, and it needs to go to a competitive bidding situation, I think we do that recommendation. So it's difficult sometimes with the case.
Right.
We generally don't have a lot of those. When you look at our budget, and you look at salaries, you look at fringe benefits, you look at out of district tuition, your busing, you have a very small dollar amount where items like this fall into a particular category.
Thank you, John. The only issue, I guess, was the question of emergency and how do you define it and what we can do in the future to keep everybody on the same, wavelength.
I just want to address the fact that, we did follow the policy. I was paying attention to the policy. This is the first time Mr. Capelli and Mr. Palmieri that something like this actually has come up. I deemed it an emergency, and I take full responsibility for making that decision. It was very uncomfortable for the staff that was there. In the future, I think we need to put another procedure in place, and we can certainly work with the subcommittee, the policy subcommittee, to put a procedure in place in case of an emergency. I think that will bring some clarity to it, and then also trying to define, as Chairman Marciano said, what constitutes an emergency and what doesn't.
Thank you very much. I'm going to refer this matter to the policy committee to take a look at.
If I may, Mr. Chairman. As the chairman of the policy committee, last night we had a meeting and we discussed this matter, and the outcome was that we would attempt, or the superintendent would attempt to notify us via email on situations like this, where if we had a problem with her decision, we would contact her. We need to meet later on this evening as a full subcommittee, because one member was missing last night, to try to write this policy and then present it to the full committee so that we can enact it.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you. Next slide. Mr. Palmieri.
Yeah, I was just curious, and in the memo you sent out, whether you had middle school coach, we had said we wanted a volunteer coach for the first year.
Yeah, Mr. Emerson put that actually in there, so I wanted you to see what he thinks it's gonna cost if we had to pay a coach. I was wondering if I would put something in the newsletter or in an all to parents telling them that we're actually looking for a middle school coach, volunteer.
Right, okay, just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Mr. Palmieri, you're on the sponsorship list.
Yeah, we got a few responses as far as people want to get on a committee to start this ball rolling. But I was talking with Steve Andriozzi, and he's doing some work as far as where we're going to go with it. So, Steve, why don't you take over for
Thank you. I think at this point, Steve, we need to, and the rest of the committee, I think we need to finally put together some type of a committee that will move this forward quickly. I think we're just sitting on our hands at this point in time, waiting for volunteers to come forward. We've had a few. I think we need to set up a committee of people in this room and the ones that have contacted us to move this forward. In the research I've been doing, there's some RFPs that are out there. Chelmsford Public Schools in April of last year put out an RFP for naming rights on their athletic fields. I think we could follow their lead and do the same, which wouldn't take a whole heck of a lot. Just a little time from a small committee, and I think we can put this out to bid and at least attempt it. Because at this point in time, we're just sitting on our hands and we're not even attempting anything at right now. And I would like to move it forward if we could. So I guess at this point, either we put a motion on the floor to ask for, members that want to join our committee, or, I'm not sure how to proceed.
Steve.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I volunteered last time to be on that committee. I will do that. Try to help you any way I can.
Yes, sir. And we appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think we should approach the public input, just not saying that.
I think what we're trying to do at this point is, the public input is fantastic, but I think we need to, we have a few people that have come forward. I just feel at this point that.
So they come forward to give donations?
No, they come forward to help, And exactly.
So I'm thinking that if you combine this somehow with the alumni association with the high school, that it's not on the back.
I'm gonna say something and it sounds rotten, but I have to say it. Okay? The alumni association in North Providence High School is non-existent. It doesn't exist. It's never existed. And that is not. I am not an alumni of North Providence High School, and I shouldn't be starting an alumni of North Providence High School. I am an alumni of the Sal Academy. I get my alumni dues every month from them, and that is not what I'm trying, and that is not what Steve and I are trying to do. An alumni association should have been set up 75 years ago when the school first started. It shouldn't have waited for Steve Andrews to come.
So my point is this: if we had the existing pool of alumni, and not to say do stop, just look for some alumni that who could network throughout the town.
Absolutely, it would be a great thing, Rod, and I think that could be a side venture. This venture is to, in my estimation, and I believe in Steve's estimation, is to attract money, large sums of money for our naming rights, such as the athletic fields, the school itself. That we're looking for bigger money. That I understand the alumni can help. It would be wonderful. I just think at this point, a committee that will put out an RFP, searching for bids to name specific areas as quickly as possible and see where that goes. And then an alumni absolutely could form on the side and attract money for other areas.
We do have, in North Providence, some very successful business people. And I think it would be important if we could try to get some of these people on board on this committee. I don't want to start naming people because it shouldn't really do that, but I can think of some people who could be very helpful to us. Steve and Steve. So I think that might be the way to
No,
go.
I think we should just meet as a committee with us first.
Yeah.
You know, and post it, and any members from the community that want to come, it's an open public forum.
Volunteers,
But I think we better start somewhere, even if we start with just the high school and work on that high school, since everything else may be kind of up in the air, people are leery with the facilities committee that's going on, but we know the high school is here and it's not going anywhere.
Right.
And there's plenty of naming rights right here in the school that we could go. So,
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, we were on TV, on the news, a month and a half ago, and through it all, we received 2 phone calls for people. We were in the breeze, we were on TV, and we received 2 phone calls. So to put out this cry for help for community leaders to come forward and help us, it's falling on deaf ears. At this point in time, we need to take the bull by the horns and do it ourselves and put out this, some RFPs and see who answers them. If the community, if the community leaders, the wealthy people in the town want to submit, by all means do so.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve.
yeah.
Next item, be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider a vote to approve the bids as submitted.
So moved.
Another second by Mrs. Picard. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, the ayes have it, so vote.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider a vote to approve the resignations as submitted. So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Picard, seconded by Mr. Palmieri and Mr. Andriozzi and Mr. Patel. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, the ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider a vote to approve the leave of absences as submitted.
Moved by Mrs. Picard, seconded by Sinetta. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, the ayes have it, so voted.
Our next item are appointments of new faculty and staff. And if the members of the new faculty and staff are here, if you'd like to stand, if you'd like to brief the school committee. Our first appointment is Anthony Acabelli. He will be the secondary business teacher at North Providence High School. Barbara Fox, induction coach and math coach. And we are thrilled to have Barbara serve in that capacity. As everyone knows, that she's an amazing middle school math teacher, and now her impact will be helping beginning teachers and then also our teachers in the classroom to improve math instruction. Michael Bento, middle school math teacher at Birchwood Middle School. Stephanie Gannum, it's a .5 Title I coordinator. This increases Stephanie from a half-time position to a full-time position that was grant funded under Title I. Seamus Curran, secondary special education teacher at North Providence High School. That's a long-term substitute position. Cynthia Marchetti, crossing guard at Maryville Elementary School. That's a new post on Middle Spring and Cooper Street as a result of her retirement. Frederick Morrison, head soccer coach at North Providence High School. And Kerry Mora, a half-time ELL teacher at Maryville Elementary School. Also, Emmanuel Ramus, secondary English teacher at North Providence High School. That's a long-term substitute position. And Holly Santana, she is filling in for central registration this summer, and she'll be off to Birchwood next year from actually Ritchie. Bianca Shoddy, a half-time special education resource teacher at McGuire Elementary School. Nicole Silva, she's going to be our head girls track coach at North Providence High School. Cassie Lynn Soto, she is our new reading specialist at North Providence High School. Therese Torrey integrated preschool teacher at Greystone Elementary School. She's in a long-term position. And Adriana Turco, kindergarten teacher at Wayland Elementary School.
Second. By Mr. Silva, second by Mr. Cotton. Committee discussion. All those in favor? Aye. All those ayes have it, so ordered. Congratulations, and I hope you have a great career in North Providence.
Next item is the use of property, and I only have one comment on use of property this evening, and it's the North Central Chamber of Commerce. They would like to have a yard sale and use the high school parking lot, and can we have an agreement to waive the fee?
Yes, we can. And, motion made to waive that fee. And we've never done property usage for this before. We've always let you know that there's going to be a bunch of alumni people are going to be parking here on the 7th for a trip to Yankee Stadium using the bus.
Okay. Put that down.
And that's all we'll get from it. I think all and this is a property use. I said, let me say it now. Don't forget them out. So
I have a question about these.
it's a Sunday, by the way, and they're going to park down near the library. So,
Well, my question is regarding the follow-up from the Greystone Field.
Right.
Regarding the request, and then did we have the opportunity to send out the letters to the Jets as well? They're going to be starting there next week regarding about expectations. And actually, San Diego, the Rock Policy Committee as well, which probably take a look at the policies we have around use of our fields and expectations for behaviors of the fields. As part of that use of property. This is season has to be revised at all.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. You want to talk about that?
Absolutely.
All right.
I have one other question before progress. I just want to make sure that the North Providence Youth Basketball Association is giving up the gym on Friday nights. Yeah, and it says that soccer league will be taking it. I have a problem with it, Richie, too. I thought we weren't letting them play soccer. Right, and usually the things were breaking last time we did let them go there. That was number one. The other thing is that from what the rumors I'm hearing is that the basketball league now wants to use 2 or 3 more hours on Saturday, which is time and a half of the janitors, and I just don't know if everybody is aware of that. But I mean, nobody's here from these leagues, to my knowledge, and I think we should just make sure that they're aware of what's going on, because you have another $4,000 or $5,000 in the budget to pay for the janitors.
They're saying they're giving up Friday to add Saturday.
Right, that's what I'm
Friday
saying.
doesn't cost Saturday work.
Right. But then the soccer league won't have the gym.
But they should be playing soccer.
So that's my point. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware, because I'm getting phone calls from different people.
So I did follow up because it was my attention as well of the NPYPA, and I talked to Mr. Kaiser, the president of the league, and maybe we could follow up because his understanding was that he was asked by the mayor's office to try to work something out with the soccer league. He wasn't promised anything by the mayor, but I was under the understanding that he was going to give up some time that maybe they talk to us about adding the 2 hours. So I don't know if anyone here has talked, I have not, but maybe Lily, if you could contact the mayor's office to see, if you could recall that conversation and what maybe was said with Mr. Silva and Mr. Palmieri. It will be an additional cost on the Saturday.
And this is building something, my suggestion, should get together with these leagues.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
We should probably hold that, we should probably take that one up.
Superintendent, were you part of any of these discussions, or did just the soccer league get together with the basketball league and make this decision?
Yeah, I haven't had any of those discussions.
I think in a memo of communication to them, they should be told that before they go out and make any decisions themselves, and come to us with them
They should just speak, and sit down with the appropriate parties to make them part of the discussion.
We could have promised somebody else that you youth basketball didn't want. I'm not saying that in soccer, but there is a problem with the soccer at those two new gyms. Because I think they did it once in breaking, what's it? They just hold up, it's to find out exactly.
So which ones are we holding off on, so I know?
So, we're holding off on the, non-partisan soccer.
Yeah?
So it's the indoor, it's, I think we're fine with Centennial, generally, correct? And we're fine with the Greystone, but they've been doing that. It's the use of the, Ritchie Middle School.
Might also say, one of the reasons we didn't allow soccer in Ritchie, it's the way the floors are made. They're not just wood on top of a cement slab. They have springs underneath them. Those are for volleyball and basketball. When you play soccer on that, you're in the room uniform. It's just, kicking all that. And the wall flies all over. Those gyms were new, but we never allowed that kind of activity.
The other thing, Melinda, is I think you want to double check for the, I don't know who has property usage for the Ritchie baseball field, but since we approved a baseball field to be put back there, I don't know if the soccer league is going to be able to play there unless they do it on fall and the baseball's played in the spring. I don't know, but they got to check on that before they. There isn't no soccer field at Ritchie that they can use, but I mean, the school's functions come first.
So should we put this to the building committee to meet with them?
Yes.
Okay.
My only question, and maybe Mr. Dios knows this, because I can't remember. The non-profit checks, I noticed that it's October 6th to 17th, Monday through Friday. Do they always have Monday through Friday? Is that the same thing where there's a school function?
Yeah.
There's each precedence?
Yes.
Okay, and next number of problems. Right.
So we need a vote to approve them.
So, I second Mr. Silver's motion.
Motion by Mr. Silver, seconded by Mr. Discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, ayes have it.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the nonprofit school committee consider a vote to approve the list of items as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Hernandez, discussion, seconded by Mr.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, ayes have it.
And be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the nonprofit school committee consider a vote to approve the fundraisers as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Hernandez, seconded by Mr. Hernandez. Discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, ayes have it. Minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the session minutes on May 28th, June 18th, both executive and open.
Second. Seconded by Mr. Bott, seconded by Mr. Silver. Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. So voted.
And a motion to seal the executive session minutes on June 18th, pursuant to Alabama Law 42-46-45.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye. Motion to adjourn.
Second. Meeting adjourned at 8:25. Thank you very much. We'll try to do our best.
I